Hello everyone, this is Cameron Schrader. Hopefully I have my mic volume loud enough this time and not too loud. But judging by how this looks up here, I'm gonna say that it's decently loud. Actually, maybe not loud enough. Um, I am going to do in this video a tutorial on how to do a melodic progressive house bass line. So if you want some example styles, the most notable I would say would be Dinka and Telemenka, um, but Roald Velden, Keith Harris, and sometimes even Alex H. They do their bass lines in this style. Sounds kind of like this. Those are actually basses here in this demo that I ripped out of a track that I just finished. So this tutorial is going to cover Sylenth and Massive. Now, I would say that you don't need one or the other for making basses. If you've got just one, if you've just got one of them, that's fine. If you've just got one of them, that's fine. You don't like. There's not necessarily one that's better. Sometimes I use both, or sometimes I use both. Sometimes I only use Sylenth. Yada yada yada. Anyways, let's get down to making the sound. So these are just two basses that were made with the same thing in mind, same goal in mind. So you're not making one bass isn't going to like be your mids and one bass isn't going to be your highs. They're both going to do both of those things, and you're not going to use a sub bass because if you make bass sounds in Sylenth and Massive, like plucky sounding basses, which is what we're doing here, you shouldn't need a sub bass. The stabby plucky sound adds a lot of drive to your track, so I would not encourage using a sub bass of any sort. So, anyways, I'm gonna copy that, start a new pattern, bring in Sylenth, put in an init preset. Okay, so there's not really one way to do this. There's not any one way to do this. There are multiple ways of doing these basses. There's not any specific waveforms that you have to use or anything. There are some consistencies, but for the most part, you just play around until you have some that sounds good. So we'll start off with the amp envelope. And we're going to be doing the exact same thing when we get over to Massive as well, so pay attention to what I've said, and it will make perfect sense when we go over to Massive. So you're going to leave your attack and your release at 0 or whatever they are whenever you open up an init preset. Your decay, I'm going to bring that down just for the sake, just for the moment. Your decay is going to be anywhere from a quarter to a half. I like it right there. And then your sustain is going to either be 0 or it'll be in between 0 and a half. In these basses, in the demo basses, the sustain was at 0. I think. Yeah. But that won't work in every track. You usually need some sustain. on the first, you're not usually going to have an octave at zero. On any of the oscillators, you'll usually have a mix between -2 and -1. So that's one consistency. It's late and I couldn't sleep, so I'm recording a tutorial. So, the retrig, you just kind of mess around with that until you get something that sounds good. And by that I mean mess around with having it on and off on your oscillators. You might finish making your sound and then like decide that you don't want a retrig on. I usually want it on my first oscillator with a little bit of detuning. And we can try it with square wave. Waveform doesn't really matter. Don't generally use sine waves, but you know, if you try it and it sounds good, I'm not going to be stopping you. So, I'm not sure what the technical term for this is, but with the second oscillator, I have moved it down an octave, and then have the note playing 7 up from where the bass note is. So, instead of that second oscillator playing on F sharp, it's going to be playing on C sharp. That will add a lot of grittiness and thickness to your sound, and it adds a chord-like sound. And then for part B, you can just copy your amp envelope over and paste it. Go ahead and move this over. Wait, no. Well, I'll leave that open just so you can see how that sounds. And for your voicing, you just mess around until you have something that you like. So for your amp envelopes, or not amp envelopes, mod envelopes, you have a couple of options. Your first mod envelope is going to usually be modulating the cutoff. Just bring that up, see how this sounds. So that actually sounds pretty good. You're going to bring your decay on your mod envelope anywhere from around a quarter to halfway. Your sustain either 0 to a quarter, and release anywhere from a quarter to all the way up, but usually between a quarter and 3/4. And then for your second envelope, you can either do the second cutoff envelope. Let's add some distortion real quick. Or you can do a pitch and bring this up to 0.11. We'll say it right here. Bring the knob all the way up, and then select volume and bring that up all the way. Adds a really nice stabby sound. Okay, so this is pretty much it for the Sylenth portion of the sound. It's pretty simple. Input select you just play around with, and you'll get something good. Detuning you just mess around with. You can play with pan. I wouldn't recommend doing too much extreme modifications with the pan. Phaser, do not use a phaser. Do not use an arpeggiator. Chorus can work. Equalizer, it's fine. You're going to be EQing it anyways. Delay, do not use delay. Don't use reverb, and compression is fine. So now on to the massive part of the tutorial. You can hit new sound. Paste our little pattern in. And you'll notice that if we go over here, the decay is halfway up and the sustain is all the way up. I'm going to bring that down a little bit. This is fourth envelope is the amp envelope on massive. Bring the attack all the way down. I don't want there to be any release. So instead of -2 octaves on massive, we have to go down 24 notes, which is still -2 octaves, but they have a different way of saying it. And then detuning, it took me a really embarrassingly long time to figure out that detuning on massive is as easy as just moving the synths up a little bit. Anyways, we're going to start out with a pulse saw, PWM. Bring it down 24 notes and then detune it just a bit to your taste. Don't mess with these. And then oscillator 2, we can either use a pulse wave or square saw. Doesn't really matter. We're going to bring it down to -5. We'll give that chord sound that we got with the +7 on Sylenth. And then we'll do another square saw and bring the wavetable down a little bit. And on this one we'll do -12. Okay, so now we've got those. Oh, and you can play around with the waveforms on this too. I usually, for the tutorial's sake, I'm just sticking with traditional wave shapes. And we're going to choose low pass 4. And you'll notice the resonance will immediately put all the way up, or halfway up, and bring that down. You can use some resonance on these sounds, but in the tutorial I'm not going to bother. So we can use this first envelope as our first modulation envelope. Again, the decay will be anywhere from 1/4 to halfway. The sustain will be anywhere from 0 to halfway. And the release will be anywhere from 0 to 3/4, sometimes all the way up. We'll move that here and move the knob up a bit. That sounds pretty good. Bring the resonance up. second envelope, we're definitely going to do a pitch envelope on this. So we're going to bring the sustain down, the attack down, the release down, and the decay almost all the way down. And then we're going to move it over here, just below pitch. Try to bring it up. We'll bring it up 24. Sounds pretty good. And we'll use a classic tube. Just bring that down a bit for distortion. And then to give, I have no idea what I just switched. To give this some stereo width, as you just heard, we will throw on a dimension expander. And you don't want it to be too extreme, so you're generally going to bring its size down quite a bit. So that sounds pretty good. Let's balance these two sounds out. Here's what they sound like together. Okay, so that sounds pretty good. That's ready to be used in a track. So yeah, that's how you make a progressive house bassline in Sylenth and Massive. I hope you found the tutorial useful. Any tutorial requests, just send me a message or leave a comment. Hope everyone has a good day. Bye-bye.